The quiet streets of Lancaster Boulevard, California, lay under a blanket of night. Streetlights buzzed faintly over rows of parked cars, and the distant drone of freeway traffic was the only break in the silence. But inside one modest apartment, a nightmare was quietly erupting. A single light burned past midnight. Neighbors later remembered vague sounds, a heavy thump, a stifled gasp, then nothing. By dawn, a shadowy figure slipped out, hauling something bulky into the darkness. He moved with purpose, like someone executing steps practiced in his mind. When the sun rose, the home that once rang with the giggles of 3 little boys was hollow, curtains sealed shut, door locked tight. And the woman who'd battled for years to shield herself and her sons had vanished. What unfolded in those early hours of August 10, 2025, would spiral into one of Lancaster's most gut-wrenching mysteries, a tale of obsession, terror, and a man's fatal refusal to release his grip. Sheyla's story began far from California in Lima, Peru. Born in the late 1980s, she grew up in a modest neighborhood, the eldest daughter in a hard-working family. Her mother, Helga Rosillo, sold handmade crafts. Her father worked construction. They didn't have much, but they had each other. Sheyla was bright, ambitious. Everyone said she had una luz, a light that drew people in. But her kindness made her vulnerable. That's how she met Josemar Cabrera, charming, confident, attentive. At first he made her laugh. He promised her a better life, a family, stability. And in her early 20s, that sounded like everything she wanted. But behind the charm was control. He decided what she wore, who she saw, and she could visit her family. By 2016, the first bruises appeared. Her mother saw them. Sheyla brushed them off. "He's just stressed," she said. He didn't mean it, the pattern repeated. Every apology came with flowers. Every promise came with fear. Police reports in Lima later confirmed at least 2 domestic violence complaints, one for striking Sheyla, another for hitting their youngest child. Yet somehow she stayed. In 2018, Sheyla convinced herself a fresh start could save her family. They immigrated to the United States, settling in Lancaster, California. For a while it worked. Sheyla picked up shifts as a caregiver. Josemar found work in construction. They had 3 beautiful boys ages 9, 6, and 4. Their apartment became a small world of laughter, toys, and the scent of Peruvian cooking. Neighbors adored her. They remember Sheyla as the woman who'd show up with soup when you were sick, who never forgot a birthday. She was sunshine, one neighbor told reporters later. Always smiling, even when you could tell she was tired inside. But behind that warmth, old fears returned. Josemar's jealousy worsened. Friends said he tracked her phone, checked her messages, sometimes waited outside her job. One friend, Elizabeth Rousseau, remembered the dread in Sheyla's voice. He said, "If I ever leave, he'll take the boys. I'll never see them again." By summer 2025, something changed. Sheyla began planning her escape. She hid small amounts of cash. She visited the Lancaster courthouse, asking about divorce. She told friends, "I'm done. I can't live like this anymore." On August 9th, she called her parents in Lima. It was a Saturday evening. Her voice trembled. "Mama, estoy lista. I'm going to the police." Tomorrow, her mother Helga would later say she replayed that call 1,000 times. It was the last time she ever heard her daughter's voice. That night, neighbors saw lights on in the Cabrera apartment long past midnight. Some heard faint arguing. Around 1:45 a.m., a neighbor above heard something heavy fall. Then nothing. At 2:40 a.m., a nurse returning from her shift passed through the parking lot, noticed Josemar, alone, wiping down the trunk of his silver sedan under the glow of a street lamp. She thought it odd, but exhaustion won. She went home. Hours later, the nightmare deepened. Detectives later reconstructed what happened inside. They believed Josemar waited until their 3 sons were asleep. Then, in a fit of possessive rage or perhaps cold calculation, he attacked Sheyla in their bedroom. She fought. Bruises later found on her arms, defensive wounds on her hands. But the knife one? No argument, no mercy. Just silence. He rolled her body in thick fabric, possibly a carpet or blanket tied it tight, cleaned the floors. Then, using that same cloth, he dragged her lifeless form through the apartment corridor. At 4:03 a.m., a neighbor's Ring camera captured a grainy, haunting image. A man hauling a large wrapped object toward a car. His stance strained, his movements awkward. The object too heavy, too limp to be anything but human. The footage later became the prosecution's most powerful evidence. At 4:12 a.m., he loaded the bundle into the trunk. Minutes later, the sedan disappeared down Lancaster Boulevard. His route would take him north into the Angeles National Forest, a sprawling wilderness of cliffs and ravines. By 6 a.m., while the city stirred awake, Josimar parked near a remote turnout, pulled the body from the trunk, dragged it to the edge of a steep drop-off, and shoved. The woman who'd once called him mi amor tumbled into darkness. When Josimar drove home, the boys were still asleep. He reheated leftovers, pretended nothing happened. By sunrise, he was rehearsing his lies. 2 days later, on August 12th, Sheyla's friends grew frantic. She hadn't shown up for work. No texts, no posts, no school drop-offs. They went to her apartment, no answer. Finally, they filed a missing person report. When deputies knocked, Josimar answered calm, even polite. He claimed Sheyla had been detained by immigration, then changed his story, said she'd run off with another man. Later, he added a third version that she'd been in a car crash somewhere, though he didn't know where. Each lie collapsed under scrutiny. Investigators noted inconsistencies, no calls to hospitals, no proof of ICE involvement, no recent travel logs. When detectives searched the home, they found faint traces of bleach on the bedroom carpet, freshly scrubbed tiles, and most chilling, a missing bedsheet. Detective Mariah Delgado from the LA County Sheriff's Homicide Bureau took lead. From day one, nothing about his demeanor fit. He wasn't worried. He was rehearsing. We knew something terrible had happened. She began gathering Sheyla's digital footprint, phone pings, bank activity, camera footage. Then came the break, the ring video. At 4 a.m. August 10th, the man in the footage matched Josimar's build, clothes, and car. With that, the case transformed no longer missing person, but homicide. The search operation launched August 13th. The LA County Sheriff's Homicide Bureau coordinated with search and rescue teams from Crescenta Valley, Altadena, and Montrose. Helicopters combed 700,000 acres of brutal canyon land. Drones scanned ravines. Volunteers trekked in blistering heat. Meanwhile, Josimar vanished along with the children. The FBI, ICE, and Peruvian consulate were alerted. Border crossings flagged. Interpol notified. The theory he'd fled south. 3 days later, August 16th, came the heartbreaking call. At 10:08 a.m., a Montrose rescue unit spotted something below a ridge, a bundle wedged between rocks, half covered in brush. Investigators rappelled down. Wrapped in the same patterned fabric from the ring footage lay the body of 33-year-old Sheyla Lisbeth Cabrera. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Her body bore stab wounds. The time of death aligned with early August 10th. That evening, candles flickered across Lancaster's Central Park. Friends, co-workers, and neighbors gathered under handmade banners. Justicia para Sheyla. Ni una más, the phrase not one more, echoed across social media. Meanwhile, in Peru, authorities confirmed the children were safe. They had been found in Lima, under their father's supervision. Josimar had crossed the border days earlier, slipping through Mexico into South America. Forensic teams in Los Angeles finalized the murder charge. On August 21st, the district attorney's office filed formal charges for murder with a deadly weapon and domestic violence enhancement. An extradition warrant was signed the next morning. Interpol issued a red notice, authorizing global pursuit. Josimar evaded capture twice, once in Mexico, once in Peru. Each time he slipped away because the paperwork hadn't cleared. By the time the red notice reached Peru, he was already hiding in Lima's outskirts. Then, something unexpected. He surrendered. On August 27th, Josimar Cabrera walked into Interpol headquarters in Lima and turned himself in. Cameras flashed. His hands were cuffed. He wore a black shirt with Interpol in white letters. He was taken into Peruvian custody, pending extradition to California, a process that could take months. Back in Lancaster, Sheyla's mother arrived from Peru to retrieve her daughter's remains. Reporters captured her sobbing as she whispered she only wanted a better life for her children. At the vigil, Elizabeth Rouso spoke softly through tears. Sheyla was scared, but she was brave. She just wanted peace. The boys were placed with their grandmother. The community raised funds to support them. Lancaster residents organized a safe haven program for domestic abuse survivors in Sheyla's name. Detectives later revealed chilling details: traces of Sheyla's blood in the trunk of Josimar's sedan, the matching fibers between the cloth found in the ravine and their apartment rug, and GPS data showing Josimar's phone pinging in the exact canyon where Sheyla's body was found. There was no doubt. The evidence was airtight. The case became a national headline not just for its brutality, but for its symbolism. A woman fleeing abuse, silenced at the moment she tried to reclaim her life. Today, Josimar Cabrera remains in custody in Peru, awaiting extradition hearings. Once returned to California, he faces charges that could send him to prison for 26 years to life. But for Sheyla's family, justice will never undo the loss. In Lancaster, a mural now stands near the boulevard where she once walked with her kids. It reads in Spanish, "Vuela alto, Sheyla. To luz no se apaga. Fly high, Sheyla. Your light never fades." Her story became a rallying cry for survivors across the Latin American community in California, a reminder that silence kills, and that courage, even in fear, can light the darkest corners. Sheyla Lisbeth Cabrera's dream was simple: safety, love, and a better life for her children. She didn't get that chance, but her voice, through the people she touched, still echoes. Thank you for watching the Crime Decoder. If you want to dive deeper into global cases like this, stories of courage, obsession, and justice, subscribe, ring the bell, and check out our full library of cases.